The My Company or Identities tab in Setup allow you to specify multiple identities to use throughout the system. Now, an identity is something like a multi-company feature, except within JobPro, all the data is shared. You can call an identity various items like a branch, a company, department, office, or store. Over on the left-hand side here is where you can create your identities, and you can create as many as you like. There will be a default identity, so that every time you create a new contact or a new company record, the default identity is assigned to that record, but you can change their default identity as well, so that as you create areas like a quotation for a customer or an invoice for a customer or a purchase order for a supplier, the identity for that company or supplier will then default onto the actual transaction, where you can also change it from there. Now, essentially what an identity allows you to do is to print out a different logo and letterhead at the top of a transaction, like an invoice. Every company using the system will have at least one identity. Also, an identity can be used in relation to stock control. So every identity will have a default location in and a default location out. If you don't use stock in this system, you can just leave the system as is, which will default to the main stock location that's specified in the locations module. So the use of this is that if you, for example, were doing a purchase order and you specify the identity for that PO to be, the London branch or the New York branch, and the default location in for that particular branch or identity is, we'll say, the main stock location, well then when you receive goods on that purchase order, it automatically receives them into the main stock location. Now, you do have the ability to change the location at a transaction level where you're receiving goods into or where you're sending goods out from as well. So also over on the right hand side, we've got a preference to specify that when creating documents in the system, like invoices and quotes and other types of documents, to default the identity on those documents to either be based on the current employee's identity or the identity for the company or the contact that you're using on that actual invoice or quote or purchase order. Or alternatively, you can leave as entered, where you can manually override the identity on a transaction. You can also specify in access privileges what access groups are allowed change the identity on different transactions throughout the system. So to create a new identity, you can click on the plus button here, and in here then you can specify a different identity name, enter in your logos. If this is a default identity, you click on the checkbox here, put in a different company name and a subheading like the address, and if relevant, assign to a different location in and a location out from a stock point of view. So other options on the My Company tab are for where in various parts of the system, like printing reports and lists, there's an icon that appears on the top of the printed document. You can change the icon to be your own custom icon here, like a small logo, for example. And then down the bottom here, you can also insert your own logo that appears on the home screen. So if we go back home and take a look at the home screen, the default is for the JobPro logo to appear. But also, if we go back into setup, and let's change the logo here to be your own logo. And you can put in a higher res logo so it'll be actually quite bigger. And click on return. So back on the home screen then, your own logo can appear on the system. To insert a logo, you can either click on the link, which will give you a dialog box to select the actual file, or you can copy and paste from another program. The same with the custom icon over here, and the same when you're entering in your logos for your identities. You can paste them in, or you can click on the link to select it from the dialog box.